Are you looking to do deals and master flipping houses? Welcome to the Do Deals Show with our host, Mr. Tim Mai. As a successful investor and mentor to many real estate investors, Tim's students consistently run 6- and 7-figure investing businesses. Each week, you'll hear from top real estate investors who share the best strategies, systems, and secrets that you can use to be more successful. Tim and his guests will pull back the curtain for you to learn their exact tactics, tricks, and tools that are working best right now in today's real estate market. Now, let's welcome Mr. Tim Mai.
All right, we are live on Facebook. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this interview. Today, I have my good friend Jamel Gibbs on the line with us. Jamel is one of the greatest ever real estate investors. and his wife will tell you he's the greatest husband. Extraordinary investor, does a lot of deals, 3-4 rehabs a month, plus another 3-4 wholesale a month as well. And Jamel, you're going to share with us how to get the most deals out of the direct mail that investors are doing, right? What's your best tip for that?
Well, I'm sorry, say that again?
What's your best tip for that?
Well, first off, Tim, I want to say thanks for having me. It's a pleasure, man. It really is. And looking forward to giving the best tip that I possibly can. So what I find when it comes to searching for motivated sellers. So there's multiple ways of finding deals, right? So you have REOs, you have probate leads, you have motivated sellers, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of those categories fall into the motivated seller category. So naturally, because we're focusing on doing a lot of deals, we'll try to do consistent deals rather than a lot. I don't focus on volume. I focus on quality as opposed to quantity, because it allows me to free up my personal time, which is my personal reason why for being in the business. You have your own personal reason why. A lot of people want to do 20 deals a month just to say they're doing 20 deals a month, right? For me, I'm happy with the amount of volume that I do. So naturally, I want to be able to do deals consistently. And what I've found over time, Tim, is I've found that direct mail allows me to be as consistent as possible. And on top of that, it's scalable. Okay. And what I mean by scalable is I can track direct mail numbers ultimately, and I can see over time how a certain campaign is producing it's producing leads. And if I wanted to add more money to that budget, I can, and ultimately double my deal volume if I wanted to, right? Another scalable way to do deals right now, for those of you who are not doing it, for me, it's been the best kept secret since direct mail, is Facebook traffic. Facebook traffic allows you to see your numbers in real time and ultimately scale your lead generation up, your deal flow up. The more leads you get in, the more offers you make. The more offers you make, the more deals you're ultimately going to do. And obviously, when it comes to doing more deals, dodeals.com. Ultimately, when it comes to doing more deals, you're basically going to naturally put more money in your pockets. Okay, so what I've found, and this is a big tip for a lot of you guys who are thinking about doing direct mail, if I had to give you one tip to really benefit, I'm going to tell you to be consistent with your mailing. So most people, they want to get that big paycheck, right? They want to get a $20,000 check within a 30-day time frame. That is absolutely possible, but you also want to think about the long term. You want to think about the big picture as to your reason why you're in this business in the first place. You're not in it for a $20,000 check. You're in it for $20,000 per month. You're in it for $100,000 per month. So you need to be consistent with what you're doing. Okay, so how do you be consistent? What I find that a lot of investors are doing is they're falling short on their on their consistency. So, and just be totally transparent, guys. For those of you watching this video right now, be perfectly honest with yourself. Okay, are you really sending out as much mail as you possibly can? Are you really being consistent with those sends? Most investors, especially brand new investors, and it's a shame because this business will provide you with the lifestyle that you want if you treat it the way a business is supposed to be treated. Okay, most people will fall short, and what I mean by that is they'll send one mailer, they'll send a second time, and they'll stop sending on that third mailer because they didn't get the result that they wanted. But remember what I said, it's not about the immediate check. It's about long-term profits, consistent profits. So you have to be consistent with your mailing. Those leads will continue to come in, and the more leads that will come in, the more deals, like I said, you'll do. You can't think about the onesie, twosie type of sending and expect $100,000 or even $1 million a year if that's what you want. You have to be consistent with what you're doing. So if you didn't get a deal the first month, there's a reason for it, and I'll explain that reason in just a second. If you didn't get a deal the second month, the third month, send again on the fourth month. Send again. Plan out 6 to 7 months in advance. Budget yourself 6 to 7 months in advance. So you know right up front, I'm going to spend this amount of money for the next 6 months on a campaign that will generate enough leads for me to do a deal. Remember, the more leads you send out, the more deals you will do. If you send out 0 leads on the 4th month, guess what happens? You don't get anything. So as long as you're doing something, you're adding something to your business each and every single day, adding leads into your deals, into your flow each and every single month, you're going to get some type of result. If you don't do anything, guess what your result is going to be? Nothing. Okay, so you don't want to continue to do nothing. You want to continue because you see everyone out here making money in real estate. It's because they're being consistent. Okay, the second thing I want to talk about, and this is kind of a bonus, Tim. I wanted to talk a little bit about the amount of money people spend on a monthly basis when it comes to doing direct mail. Now, I see a lot of people, some people just don't have the money. Okay, you really don't have the money. So what is it that you need to do in order to really get enough leads in order to make those offers, in order to make those deals? In this business and in any business, you're going to trade off one thing or another. It's either going to be time or it's going to be money. Okay, for those of you who have the means, I need you to really consider thinking about investing more dollars into your marketing. If you don't have the means, it's going to just take you more time. When I first started, I had $250 to my name. I went around knocking on everybody's doors. I printed out 100 flyers a day. Okay, it cost me $20. And I basically went in and I went to different subdivisions and I was sliding flyers indoors. Okay, I called up every single newspaper ad. I drove for dollars, drive around town and see which houses are vacant and basically take down the addresses, trace the owner, contact the owner. Do what you have to do in order to get that first check. But you need to reinvest that first check into marketing. Most people will take that first check and spend it, right? You're going to go buy a flat screen TV. You're going to go ahead and buy, get some new shoes, pay off a bill or whatever the case may be. That stuff can wait. You need to reinvest your profits back into your business a couple of times to get some traction going in order to really grow your business. So if you're totally broke right now, you need to take action and you need to invest more time into your business as opposed to more money, right? Because you don't have the money. If you have the means, and I'm going to explain something, most of you guys have the means to invest into your business. Most of you are buying Starbucks every day. Maybe you smoke cigarettes. Give up the bad habits, save a little bit of money, stop eating out for a couple of months. Guess what? Magically, you're going to be able to have this extra money, this disposable income that you're spending in restaurants and stuff like that. And you'll be able to, if you got a carpool to work, I don't care what you have to do, you have extra money and you can find that extra money. Or if not, you know people who have extra money where you can borrow the money, put it on a credit card. I don't care. Do what you need to do. Okay, do what you need to do in order to make the dream work. Okay, but if you have access to money, okay, which all of you do, I don't care what your excuse is. Okay, when I first started, I had access to money and I didn't even know it. Okay, so all of us have access to money. Look, if you have access to that fund, to those types of funds, consider starting a budget, a realistic budget that's going to drive enough leads for you. $200 a month ain't going to do it, guys. I'm going to tell you that right now. It can do it over time. It's just going to take you that much longer to do deals. If you want to shorten that time frame, consider spending. And this may scare some of you away, but if you want to build a business, listen to what I'm telling you, okay? You got to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000 to $1,500 per month starting off. That is a realistic, comfortable budget for you to start off with. So if you have an extra 10 grand right now, set 10 grand aside and say, this entire $10,000 is going to go towards marketing for the next 6 months. I can't guarantee you anything, but I will tell you, if you do that, you will drive enough leads that will allow you to do multiple deals. Because I have a friend here in North Carolina, he spends $3,500 a month. He's doing 8 deals a month. 8 deals a month at $5,000 a piece. So how much money is that, guys? $40,000 a month for spending $3,500. Okay, do the math. Would you spend $5,000 to make $30,000 back, or would you spend $200 to make $1,000? Let's do some math. So that's my tip, guys. Consistency is the absolute best thing you can do in this business. And, at the end of the day, you need to really consider what it is that you're doing with your business. If you're not doing anything, then you're failing every single day. You need to add something to your business every day in order for it to grow. I hope that helps out a ton of people.
Go back a little bit with the mailing for 6 to 7 months. Now, do you suggest that they mail to different people each month for that 6 to 7 months, or mail to the same people for that 6 to 7 months?
So here's what we do, Tim. Okay, and that's a great question, by the way. Here's what we do. We basically will mail to one list for 6 months. Think about it like this. I'm building a relationship with people over time. People need to see your message. It goes back to that rule, right? People need to see your message 7 times in order for them to register that message in their brain. The more they see you, the more chances are, the more they're going to call you over time. So that's why you'll have like a McDonald's, or let's go with McDonald's. That's why you have McDonald's play a commercial every 15 minutes, right? So you're consistently seeing that message throughout the day. Then guess what magically happens when you're driving in a car and you see that big McDonald's logo, that big M? What happens? You want to go into McDonald's. Not me personally, but I'm just giving you the bigger picture. That's why you have different commercials that cycle every 15 minutes. People need to see your message multiple times for it to register in their brain. What they're in essence doing is they're building a relationship with you over time. That's what happens. Okay, so you may see the message 3, 4, 5 times. You may see that same exact commercial 4 or 5 times throughout the day. Look at the Super Bowl. You'll see the same commercial multiple times because they know there's millions and millions of people watching it. They want to get in front of as many people as possible and build that relationship. So that's what you're doing with your direct mail. Think of it as I'm building a relationship with 1,000 people over a course of 6 months. So when these people think about selling their house, they're thinking about me. I'm the first one. I'm the only one that's consistently hitting them with different forms of marketing. And be creative with your message. You don't have to use any cookie cutter marketing messages. Think about how you can help them as opposed to helping yourself. Okay, you're in a people helping business. You're in the problem solving business. Okay, so think about how they can benefit and how you can help them as opposed to how can I get a deal? How can I get it? Don't think about how you can get the deal. Think about how you can help that person, and naturally, you're going to get that deal. So yeah, what you're doing is you're building a relationship over time. And one more thing: the more motivated the person is, Tim, shorten that time frame. You may want to touch base with them 6 to 7 times over a 2-month or 3-month time frame as opposed to 6.
Explain what does it mean, a more motivated person? So what type of list or leads would that be?
Great question. So basically, for me, a motivated person would be pre-foreclosure. I need to contact them as soon as possible. I need to touch base with them 6 times over an 8 to 12 week time frame, as opposed to 6 months. Probate. Okay, that's another motivated situation. You have bankruptcy, you have divorce. I just picked up a divorce deal, $650,000 home, no work needed. The house is only 10 years old, right? No work needed. The house been vacant for 3 years. I picked it up for $385. That was a divorce situation. And most of the time, a lot of these motivated situations are going to have multiple motivated factors to it. So what I mean by that is you're going to have a motivated seller can be someone that's getting a divorce, the house is vacant, and they're filing bankruptcy. So they'll have multiple things that's really bothering them at the time, and all you need to do is solve those problems, or at least offer them a solution to their problem, and then you'll get the deal. Absentee owners are my absolute favorite list, but they're the slowest list when it comes to getting the deals. And the reason for that is because absentees aren't necessarily motivated like a bankruptcy list or someone that needs immediate satisfaction. Absentees can be just a tired landlord and he's willing to wait it out, or someone who's not even thinking about selling a house until they receive your letter. So you're going to have less motivation there, but for me, you're going to get the most consistency in that list because you're building a relationship with them over several months as opposed to a short period of time, if that makes any sense.
It does. And one last question, and we're going to get off of Facebook.
Talk to me, man.
Yes, which is, so, you're mailing them 7 touches. Are they the exact same mailing, or each mailing is different messaging, different formats, different media?
Another great question. Basically, I'm touching them 7 different times with a different type of message. So I may send a yellow letter the first time, another follow-up yellow letter. I may send a postcard after that, then a handwritten. I may send them a letter on a business letterhead. I want to see trigger them. So basically, I'm touching them with multiple modalities as opposed to one. I'm going to mix up the message each time, or the message can be similar but in a different format. So what I mean by that is you may end up sending a postcard, a yellow letter, a formal letter, a handwritten message on just a plain white sheet of paper. You may end up sending some type of like a contract offer, which is a really that's a really good way to get people to call you. Send them an offer, right? Just send them a straight contract. All right. There's some things that you have to do in order to understand the process to that, but send them a contract, right? So you mix up the message, you mix up the type of mail that they're receiving, and you're going to see which piece of mail is going to bring in the most amount of phone calls. You're going to stick to that. You're going to keep that piece of mail in the mailer, and then you're going to test multiple things up against that to see what you can do over time to just make the perfect mailing campaign. That's basically what we do.
Awesome. I said that was one last question, but I have one more because it's like as you answer, I have extra question. So how do you make sure that they know that it's you each time and not mixing you up with other investors where someone else is getting the benefit of all of your mailing?
So basically, my name is on each one, or in my case, I'm in multiple markets, so we have a specific logo. We brand our mailing. Okay. If you're looking for a more personal touch, your name is all they need to know. So you may come up with something catchy. Tim buys houses, right? I'm just throwing that out there. They'll remember Tim buys houses as opposed to they may even remember just Tim Mai, right? But Tim buys houses. I'm gonna give this guy Tim a call. I'm thinking about selling my house. It may take him 4 months, but guess what? I've had people call me 2 and 3 years later from mail that they received. They said, you contacted me a couple years ago with 6, 7 pieces of mail. I wasn't ready to sell then, but you were consistent, man. So I got to give you a shot. And I've really had people do that. I got people calling me from Pennsylvania. I've been here in North Carolina now for 3 years. I've got people calling that same phone number because I kept that phone number from Pennsylvania. And I haven't lived there in 3 years. So just from mailers that we've sent out back in 13 and 14, people are still calling from those letters. It's awesome, man. It's just how you build a relationship with people.
That's awesome. All right, Facebook. We're gonna get off of Facebook now. If you like this so far already, and you love Jamel's and his his wisdom, his energy, make sure you like this video, share it with your friends. Leave comments and keep an eye out for when we post the entire interview. Okay, so with that, we'll see you later. All right, Jamel. So that was
actually live.
That was live on Facebook.
Awesome, man. What's your what is it? DoDeals.com on Facebook or something?
Well, that's going to my personal wall. So if you just go to Tim Mai.
Cool, man. I want to share it if that's okay.
Yeah, it's your tag, so you should see it on your end as well. All right.
Awesome.
Yeah. So take us back. Take us back to like how did you get started in this business and what got you interested in real estate investing?
So for me, I started back in 2002 as a real estate investor. I really started. Well, let me just backtrack and give you a brief story because if I tell you the whole story, it's going to take us the entire interview, right? So here's a clip note version of my personal story. So basically, I started off, I used to work down on Wall Street back in 2000, going into 2001, fresh out of high school. I didn't go to college. I thought college sucked, and I just didn't want to. I hated school, and I barely graduated school in '99. But I just didn't like school, and I didn't want to sit in front of a professor all day long. So I decided that I was going to try and get a job. I knew this guy at the time. I was cutting hair in a barbershop, and I knew this guy who used to work for the phone company. He said, hey, I'm making 70 grand a year. And this guy was like 23 years old. I thought 70 grand a year was like the end all be all at that time. I was like, man, if I could just make 70 grand a year. And I think he had like a Mazda 626 at the time, which I used to like that car back in the day. But turns out that he worked for the phone company. So he said, you know what, here's how I did it. Go take it. And long and behold, I went ahead and I took the test. Now, I was 19 years old. I was 18 at the time. For the type of job that I wanted, I needed to be I wanted to be a field tech, which means I was going to climb up the poles and fix telephone lines and all of that stuff. That was what he was doing, so that's what I wanted to do. All right. So I ended up applying for the job. I passed the test, and turns out I wasn't old enough to have the job. I needed to be 21. So they basically shot me down. They said I can be a telephone rep, and I said I'm not in this to be a telephone rep, so you guys suck, basically. So so at that time, right around that time, my aunt, she met a guy who he was a a currency broker at a firm on Wall Street. And he just met her on the street randomly, and they were just like at the light waiting to be able to walk across, and they started talking, and it turns out he was looking for young guys to do some cold calling and stuff like that. So he ended up giving her his phone number. I called him, had an interview on 40 Wall Street in the Trump building. That's where the headquarters was located. And then the main headquarters was in the World Trade Center. But I ended up contacting him. I started $250 every 2 weeks. So it was $500 a month. Imagine living off of $500 a month, right? In New York City, by the way. Talk about paying your dues, man. So I ended up becoming one of their top cold callers. I transitioned into becoming an account opener. I was talking to people worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they thought they were talking to this Wall Street guy, which I was at the time. But I was able to sell it, and I found out that I was a natural salesperson, basically, right? So in due time, just a couple of weeks before September 11th, actually, I became a broker, and all of those accounts that I opened up, I was just about to really start making some good money at 20 years old, 21, right around that time. And the plane hit the towers, and the company went bankrupt because all of the investors started pulling their money out. And just like that, overnight, I was out of business. So a friend of mine who was in the real estate business, he said, "Hey, you need to come try this stuff out." He was a real estate agent for one of the top firms in Brooklyn. I'm not going to mention any names, but it's still the top firm in Brooklyn, New York. I ended up going to work with them, became an agent. I became a broker. But while I was going through that entire brokering process, I noticed that most of the people, because I was working with a lot of investors, people who were buying houses in Brooklyn, I noticed that most of the money really is being made on the investment side, not the brokering side. Let's do some math here. So you have a $500,000 home, right? The broker is making 6%. And in New York, they're going to negotiate that number down. Believe that. So you're going to really be making like 4% in New York, because New Yorkers are tough negotiators, right? They're going to make you an offer you can't refuse. So at the end of the day, let's do some math. So the average $500,000 home that you sell, let's use the normal 6%. You're going to make $30,000 on a deal, right? The investor would make $100,000. So let's do some math. $30,000, $100,000. I naturally transitioned into becoming an investor. I remember my first $1 million deal, 2 years into the business. I made $48,000, and I was 23 years old. I couldn't believe it. So that sold me. I stopped brokering from that moment on, and I went full time as a real estate investor. This is back in like 2004, 2003, right around that time. Shortly after that, we ended up moving to Pennsylvania, and this is my wife and I. We moved to Pennsylvania, and there I was moving back and forth because it was only a 2-hour drive from New York to Pennsylvania. I would do deals in New York, but I started doing deals in Pennsylvania. Over time, I've done a couple of hundred deals in Pennsylvania. I lived there until 2014. Then I ended up moving here to North Carolina, where we're doing multiple deals at a time as well. And while I was in Pennsylvania, this is how I transitioned into teaching, if it's okay to talk about that. I had a real estate agent who I was working with. She heard of me before. She heard I'm the guy that was doing all these deals on a monthly basis, which at that time I was really doing a lot of deals. I'm still doing a lot of deals, but on a different level now. But at that time, it was more about volume. It was more about quantity as opposed to quality. Now for me, it's more about quality deals as opposed to quantity. I can make the same amount of money doing less deals, right? I could make the same amount of money doing less deals. I can actually make more money doing less deals than spreading myself thin and doing a whole bunch of deals. I know there's guys out there who want to do 20 deals a month. Do you really need 20 deals a month in order to live? That's what you have to ask yourself, right? So, she ended up asking me, how do I do what I do? She told me, she said, you should write a book about what you do. And I never registered in my head. She said, I will pay you to show me how you do what you do. And that's when the light bulb went off. I said, ding, light bulb. You said you'll pay me to do that. And that was all history from there. I wrote my first ebook. I ended up watching guys like Tim Mai, and I created home study courses and stuff, and meeting up with guys like you, and transitioned into this big education thing that I got going on now too. So pretty awesome, man. Pretty awesome. Now, I did over time when the market tanked, I struggled myself, like everybody else. I struggled because I was so focused on one thing, and this is going to be a good part of the story, guys. So take notes. Okay, so listen. I was a one-trick pony up until 2007 when I started teaching, right? I was a one-trick pony, and because I was a one-trick pony, when the market tanked, I basically lost everything, and I had to rebuild, right? I was only focusing on rehabbing houses. I started off in this business as a rehabber. So I was only focusing on rehabbing houses. Just to take a step back for a second, that one trick, because I was only doing one thing, got me into trouble. Okay. Now I have multiple ways of doing deals. We wholesale, we do rehabs, we do creative real estate investing, we're doing new construction, we're doing apartment buildings, and so on and so forth. But if I had to sum it all up, because I was a one-trick pony, it really affected my income and that time frame. The good thing is, while I was going through that transition in my business, I remembered my first deal. My first deal I only made $1,500 on, Tim. And it wasn't even a real estate deal. It was a business that I flipped. So I knew a guy who wanted to sell their business for like 10 grand. I ended up saying, okay, what if I could find somebody to pay $11,500 for it, or $12,000? I ended up getting another guy. It was a sandwich shop. I ended up getting another guy who ended up paying $11,500 for it. I made $1,500 on my first deal, and it wasn't even a real estate deal, but remember that concept. I basically started applying that to houses, and over time, I basically started incorporating the wholesale aspect of the business. And then it turns out that there were other guys out there who were actually wholesaling houses. I never coined the term wholesaling. It never registered to me that I've wholesaled houses. To me, I was just getting a deal at a low price and selling it at a low price. So buy low, sell low. That's what I used to call them, buy low, sell low type of deal. But it turns out that there were other guys out there who were wholesaling. So I started educating myself on the process on how to do it properly, because I was definitely not doing it the right way. And, I started incorporating wholesaling into my business. So now I went from being strictly a rehabber to wholesaling and rehabbing. Okay, so now I had multiple ways of doing deals, more than one way. Then over time, I learned how to do owner financing, subject to, wraparound mortgages, land contracts, lease options, et cetera, et cetera. And I was learning this stuff by accident, by just putting deals together. My thing was, if a lead is taking the time to call me, I have to figure out a way, and I'm naturally a creative thinker. I had to figure out a way on how to get this deal done. How can I help this seller? So I remember one time my first lease option deal. I didn't even know it was a lease option deal, right? So the guy, he was a motivated seller. He had 40 houses he needed to get rid of. He said, let's start off with this one house, right? He said, I'm willing to do a lease option on it if that's okay with you. So this was a $100,000 home. He owed $40,000 on it. It was right next door. There was a fire, and it was a row home. So the houses were connected. Some of the smoke damage came over into this house. He got it fixed by the insurance. So he got paid on the house already. I said, will you sell the house for what you owe on it? He ended up taking 40 grand. All I had to do was go and lay $1,000 worth of carpet in the house. And it was a brand new house for someone. I ended up selling that house for 70 grand to an end buyer and left a little bit of equity in the house for them. So I made a $30,000 profit on a wholesale flip. Plus I collected rent from that particular buyer for 4 months. Now, it was 6 months. Here's the deal with that, though. I basically took over the seller's $435 per month payment, and I charged $850 a month. So I was collecting a difference, and I made money up front because of the down payment. I made money every month, and then I made money on the back end when I sold the house. So and I said I got to do more of these deals. So then I had that in my arsenal. So now I had multiple ways of doing deals, and that just grew into this big thing that I have now. So that's basically how I got involved in this whole thing, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, someone listening to this or watching this, is probably thinking, man, Jamel is such a hustler. He's a natural, born talent. That's great. He can do that, but I can't do that. I don't talk like that. I don't sell like that. What would you say to that person? Yeah.
That is, that's really interesting because I never really sat and thought about it. It really, especially when I first started teaching, Tim, I really struggled with talking in front of the camera. I still struggle with it on a daily basis, right? So at this point, I just have that mentality. It's not about me. It's not about It's not about me. It's about the information I'm giving to help someone else. That's basically what it all boils down to for me. So that allows me that comfortability that I can obtain in order to help, in order to be able to come across the way that I do now. Now I don't have a problem speaking. It really took a lot of time for me to be able to do it. And the more you do something, the more you'll get used to it over time. So now I can jump in front of a camera and just talk and be myself. I don't have to be anyone else. I can't be Jamel Gibbs. What you see is what you get type of guy, right? As far as doing deals, yes, I am a hustler, right? You can't be taught hustle. I'm just going to be honest with you. You cannot be taught hustle, but everyone has a little bit of hustle in them. All you have to do is train that hustle. Okay, you have to motivate yourself. I listen, rather than listening to music, I go to the gym 6 days a week. Rather than listening to music in the gym, I'm listening to something motivational. I'm listening to some type of book. If you don't already, download audible.com. It's only $15 a month. $15 a month to get some great education from different books and different people. Start off with motivation books. I just finished up a book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Great book. The Richest Man in Babylon. Great book, right? I heard about it on someone else's podcast. I decided to download it. But the point is, I'm consistently educating myself, okay? And that makes me more comfortable with what I'm talking about and what I do for a living, which is real estate investing, right? So over time, most people will start off, if it's brand new for you, you're going to start off shy, you're going to start off uncomfortable. The trick is to consistently step outside of what you're comfortable in doing. So I try to stay outside of my comfort zone, okay? So I'm consistently doing something that's bringing me outside of my comfort zone. And guess what? The uncomfortable suddenly becomes comfortable over time. And then I'm just trying to find new things now in my life where I feel like I'm uncomfortable in, so I can do it, get it over with, do it a few times, and now I'm comfortable with it.
Right.
And speaking in front of cameras was one. I could do telephone calls all day long, but speaking in front of the camera, like right now,
Yeah.
that was one of my biggest fears at one point.
Well, you're handsome, so you're doing great.
I think my wife would agree. I hope so.
Yes.
Thank you,
Now,
my brother.
yeah, you said something that I want to expand on. You said that I don't make it about me. I make it about like the information that I have to share that's going to make a difference for someone. So
Right.
how I translate that into the real estate investing business is that you as the listener, if you're shy about talking to these homeowners, if you're unsure, you feel like you're still new at this, don't make it about you. Don't make it about you trying to make some money.
That's right.
Make it about how can I help this homeowner, with their situation, with their problems, and in helping them, I get rewarded for that, and it comes in the terms of money, right?
That's right.
But yeah, focusing on helping that person. And then focusing on that, if there's something you don't know, you can just say, well, I don't know the answer to that, but let me find out the answer to that so I can come back and help you.
And that's a problem. Most people think they have to know everything before they ever get started. Really, you learn as you go on. Okay, you learn as the process moves. If you don't know the answer to something, say, look, let me find out. I don't want to give you any incorrect information. Let me find out. I'll get back to you. You don't necessarily have to say, I don't know. You can say, I don't want to give you any incorrect information. Let me find out. Let me ponder over that for a minute, and I'll get back to you with that information. So basically what you're doing is you're building a rapport with the seller over time, right? You're building that rapport with the seller. That's really what you want to do. So when I just had a seminar last weekend, Tim, and I was telling everyone, I said, look, the reason why I get so many deals done is because of how I approach the deal. I'm going to give you guys a quick tip if that's okay. Most investors, think about this for a second, guys, and I'm going to ask you, like you're the crowd, Tim. What do most investors do when they first walk into a home? What is it that most investors are focused on when they walk into a home?
Yeah, well, they folks look at the house, like looking at what the condition of the house. Yeah.
And what do they do while they're looking at the house?
What?
While they're looking at the house, they're looking at the condition. What are they doing? They're talking to the seller, but what are they doing?
So they could be writing notes about what's wrong with the house. They can be taking pictures about what's wrong with the house, right?
They're going to be maybe they'll be mentioning to the seller, hey, did you notice that something was wrong right here? So the way I separate myself, the way to make money in any type of business is to separate yourself from everyone else. Okay, so remember, there's 1,000 other guys who are buying houses. How can I separate myself from the pack? This is why every time I go on an appointment to see a house, I walk away with a contract. I'm gonna give you guys a secret. Okay, here's the deal, guys. Don't look at the house when you first walk into the house. Okay, remember, you have some ammo. You should always have some ammo before you walk into the house. You should understand the seller's situation a little bit. But before I ever look at the house, I want to sit down with the seller. Hey, Mr. Seller, do you mind if we sit down and talk for a minute? I don't want to look at the house because every other investor is looking at the house first. I want to extract information from this seller. I want to talk. I want them to see that I'm a real person, not just some business guy. All right. And what I typically do is I'll go ahead and I'll find out through a conversation, just talking. I want to find out what their real problem is. Okay, the real reason why they want to sell. I don't even discuss the house. I want to see what it is that they're struggling with in their life, because obviously they want to sell for a reason. What it is that they're struggling with. Again, it goes back to that same concept, right? How can I help someone? It's not about the money. Rather than thinking about dollars and cents all day long, how can I help someone and add benefit to someone's life? as opposed to worrying about making $10,000 a month. If you add benefit to someone's life, and this is with everything, it's with educating, it's with real estate, it's with people in general. You're in a people business. People have a lot of problems. If you can help people on a daily basis and help them solve their problem, you're naturally going to make money. People are going to be drawn to you. Okay. So what I think about when I walk into a house is a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Seller. You mind if we sit down and talk for a minute? And I just want to ask him, so, tell me a little bit about yourself. I want to get a chance to know you before we actually talk about anything else. I don't even mention the house. And what I'm doing is I'm building a rapport. I'm showing a seller that I really care about their situation. And think about this. It's even in the Bible, guys. You give in order to receive, right? You give something in order to receive. So if you can offer a solution if you can find out what the seller's problem is and offer a solution to the problem without thinking about money in return, naturally the money is going to come back. Okay. So if I can help the seller solve their problem, let's say there's a seller who just got a job in another area. They need to relocate. They don't know how to do it. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out. I'm going to tell the seller, look, let me look into that for you. I'm going to have some information for you in the next 24 hours. Right. So all I'm doing is I'm solving, or I can have some information for you later today. Or guess what? We're in a day and age where you have a phone. You can go right on the phone and find out. How about I contact one of my friends in that area, and I'll hook you up with an agent that can help you find a property. So all I'm doing is I'm adding some type of benefit, and I'm just giving, that was just an example, but all I'm doing is I'm adding some type of benefit to the seller's life. I'm adding some type of value. I'm giving them some type of value without asking for anything in return. Right now, what happens? How is the seller going to approach me when he'll say something like, okay, are you ready to look at the house? I'm absolutely ready to look at the house. But before we actually do that, Mr. Seller, what else is it that you're struggling with? Is that your real reason why you want to sell? Dig a little deeper into the conversation, right? Then when you're looking at the house, he trusts you at that point. He trusts everything that you have to say, that you got to say, right? He's going to trust everything that you have to say. So then you're going to go through, I'm not going to bash the house. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to take notes. This is what needs to be done. What is it that you like most about this house moving forward? Then I'm still continuing the conversation as we're walking through the house. Then when it's time to sign a contract, all I'm doing is I'm basically telling the seller, look, we walk through the house. I really appreciate you showing me around your home, or I really appreciate you showing me around your property. If it's a rental property, let me ask you a quick question. How soon do you need to solve this problem that you have? Remember, we're wrapping the conversation right back completely off the house. We're wrapping it right back to the problem, right? So you're keeping the problem fresh in their head, okay? I want to help you solve that problem. And I know that this house, that's when you tie in the house. I know that this house has a lot to do with it's adding weight to your shoulders. I ran some numbers before I came, and after seeing the house, it's falling in line with what I thought, what I anticipated. I did run some numbers. Now, just to tell you about how I buy houses, then you give them a little bit of information about yourself, and then you give them an offer. 9 times out of 10, you're going to walk away with that contract. All because you help the seller trust you. It's not about business at first. It's about the seller. Think about how you can help them as opposed to helping yourself. Then over time, you're going to get that deal. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. That's awesome. That was great.
Good.
Jamel, we're running out of time now. So I'm sure by now the listeners, totally dig you and want to connect with you, learn more from you, maybe do some business with you. Where would you like to send them?
Well, I have this. If you guys really, I always like to provide something in exchange. I have this free video that I give out, Tim, and it basically shows you, especially for those of you who are looking for more deals. This will show you how to use your tax records in order to find motivated. You're basically driving for dollars online as opposed to driving neighborhoods. You'll drive for dollars online, but all I do is we pull up streets in your neighborhood, and I'll basically show you exactly how to find these streets, and then I'll show you what to look for in order to find those absentee owners right on those streets. And all you're doing is you're contacting them and saving a ton of time rather than driving for dollars every Saturday morning. So if you want that video, you can go to REIEducationacademy.com/cheat sheet. Okay. REIEducationacademy.com/cheat sheet. And that is you'll have to opt in for the video, but it'll show up in your email. If you give the correct email address, it'll show up in your email inbox from that point out. So I hope you guys can benefit from that. You will benefit from it if you put it to use, and you have to adjust it to your local market. Okay, so I'm just giving you a concept that I use. You have to adjust it to your local area. It works though.
Awesome. All right, REIEducationacademy.com/cheat sheets.
You got it.
Awesome. All right, Jamel, thank you so much, buddy, for this super, super awesome and informative interview. You share a ton in such a short amount of time, so I really appreciate you.
I wish I could have shared a lot more.
That's awesome. I love that about you. All right, folks. So, if you enjoyed this interview and got a lot of value out of it, like I have, make sure you like this video, this interview, rate us, give us feedback, share it with your friends, and with that, reach out to Jamel, learn more from him, and happy investing. And we'll see you on the next interview. All right.
Take care, guys.
Take care.
And that's our show for today. If you have any questions or would like to get further training from Tim Mai, please visit our website at www.dodeals.com/Tim.